4. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the EG Pot of Thunder with your boy, the young light-skinned Key Sweat. And here to my left, my girl has blessed us with her presence for the first time on the EG Pot of Thunder. My girl, Cindy. Make sure you follow her on Instagram. Keep up with Sin and her clinician page, The Clinician Says. So, Cindy, thank you for blessing us with your presence. For those who don't know, you kind of want to give a little synopsis of what you do and your job entails?
Yes, of course. And thank you for having me to begin with. But yes, as you said, The Clinician Says. That's my Instagram, and it's all about mental health. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But basically, long story short, I am a licensed independent clinical social worker, LICSW. What that all means is that I'm a mental health therapist. I've gone through all the training and education to practice, and I've been in the practice now for about 5 years. And I work with adults, children, young adults. I've seen a lot of situations surrounding mental health. And really, Effie allows me here today so we could talk more about that and just bring awareness to the importance of mental health and the services that I offer.
You know, for sure, that's a big thing. A lot of people in this era, I think, is becoming more prevalent, where it's like more of like accepted now. Honestly, right now I'm watching, just started watching The Sopranos. I'm not sure. Have you seen it before?
I haven't.
So the first season, the premise is, the mob boss, the main guy, Tony, he, one of the main characters is his therapist. Mm-hmm. And his kid is dealing with, oddly enough, ADHD. That's on the topic of topics to talk about. But, and when it comes up to his parents, like his kid's school says, hey, we think your child has this, is diagnosed with this. And both the mom and Tony are kind of like stunned, like, no, he doesn't have this. They're kind of like taken back. And even him going to see a therapist, he wants nobody to know. It's like, don't tell nobody, ruin my reputation. So all that being said, it's like, even like that was filmed like 99, I think. Mm-hmm. So about, like 25 years ago at this point. So it's like, we're definitely taking steps in the right direction, but there's definitely things where, people are nervous to talk about that. And you think that's like, do you think it's still coming with that bad and like not connotation where it's like, not a great thing to talk about, or like people are nervous to talk about it, they feel embarrassed type of thing still at this point?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, I feel like now with where we are, like society has accepted it more people are being honest about it, people are coming out with that and just their experiences, which is so important because that's the only way we're going to be able to destigmatize mental health. But what you're talking about is that stigma. A lot of people still experience it. A lot of people still feel ashamed, embarrassed, judge, criticize whenever they talk about what's wrong with them. And I'm here to tell you that there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with me. We all have mental health and we all have different experiences. And I think that's the most important thing when we're talking about mental health is like to be able to respect somebody else's situation. It's something that is very sensitive, and confidentiality is something that we always talk about. And any mental health professional will tell you that, like, we honor confidentiality with, of course, some limitations. We're mandated reporters, so there's certain things that we would have to, get help for if there's like suicide, self-harm, like those intense situations. But when you talk to a therapist, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, like those things are confidential, and those are things that are talked about. But I think what you mentioned with that example is more of like that initial response. It's like, okay, like you're getting, like a parent's getting told like your child has this. And that's just like an initial shock that you're like, what? Like, don't label my child.
Yeah, for sure. And, both of us being, Latino, I think that's a big thing in our community as well, growing up where, our parents or siblings or older siblings or aunts, uncles, they don't want to hear that type of stuff too. Like sometimes where, oh, it's an excuse, or no, you're fine, don't worry about it. It's definitely stigmatized in our, just in our, I want to say, well, I guess the population too, but in our upbringing, and it's just, that's really prevalent. And I feel like I can speak to, at least in my setting growing up, for sure. It's like where you don't want to be labeled that, and like the parents don't want to have kids known as that. So it's definitely so much like stigma to it, like you're saying.
Yeah, it's definitely still prevalent. And, The Clinician Says, that was my journey that I started a couple years ago, and I've taken a break for a little bit. I do plan on getting back online, and my whole initiative with that is to really spread more awareness. Like I said, Like what matters is how you experience things, how you deal with things, and how you're, responding to situations. That's all what mental health is. It's the thoughts, the feelings, the behaviors. And I think one of the ways, like I said, it's like talking about it, of course, but also understanding it. And that's my goal with my mental health Instagram page, is to talk about it, talk about those topics that like you've never talked about with anyone else, or maybe don't even know what they're called, right? Like sometimes we experience sleep challenges, or maybe appetite changes, or racing heart, and we're like, well, what does this all mean? But sometimes they're related to things that are related to our mental health, and we don't acknowledge that. And sometimes we tell somebody about it and they also don't know, so now they're telling you, oh, go see a doctor, or don't do that, don't cry about that, like stop doing that. Stop complaining, stop being lazy. And it's like, those are really criticizing comments to make to someone who might be struggling.
At what point does it become like just like a one-time issue, or like once and every now and then issue though, and it becomes like, okay, this is when I should talk to somebody? Like yesterday, I woke up like at 3:30 in the morning. I don't know why. I drink a lot of water, so I had to go to the bathroom. Came back from the bathroom. I just couldn't sleep after that. Mm-hmm. So that's first time this happened in a while. But so at one point is like, okay, I have a sleep disorder, or I have something wrong with my sleep because of my mental health. At what point should I be like, hey, I should seek help at this point, instead of just turning like a one-time instance into a big deal type of thing?
So technically, no. So that's one of the main things that two points of that, right? First of all, we should not diagnose one another or ourselves. I think that's a big problem I see a lot of the time, is because you say because you woke up in the middle of the night, now you have a sleep disorder. Like that shouldn't be the case. Like you woke up in the middle of the night and now it's something to be attentive of. You know what I mean? So now, is it happening for 2 weeks? Usually a 2-week indication means, okay, there's something I should look into, like now I should go see a doctor or a professional, but I think what you're asking is more, let's look at patterns. Patterns indicate a lot of things when it comes to mental health. It's one thing, because maybe the day before you drink a lot of water, maybe you had to get up, but some people, because they're anticipating something, they're really, really nervous. Now they're losing 3 hours of sleep,
For sure.
And maybe it's happening only twice a week. Maybe it's happening every day. Maybe it only happens once in a while. But again, I think understanding where your symptoms are coming from, it's understanding yourself.
For sure. And I'm just laughing at what I'm about to say, not what she was saying. Did I tell you this last time? You're the lost files, guys. There was a lost file. I don't know what the hell happened. Don't get this hard drive. I'll put it up there. Mm-hmm. It's a bad hard drive. It apparently deletes files. My guy, Alan M. Film, says he said he started using it, then he threw it away after. There's a SanDisk mobile portable hard drive. Motherfuckers.
I hope that file is found one day.
Don't know. I genuinely don't know what happened to it. Got the pictures though from that day. But did I tell you about my ex heart racing and stuff like that?
You can say it again.
Yeah, so it was funny, like you're saying. I was laughing because there wasn't something wrong with me. It's just the like paranoia or like scaredness of like my ex gave to me, and like it was bad. It was a toxic relationship, and it was like over at that point. And I was like, well, I get to the ending stages, but she would call me a lot, and I hate talking on the phone. Like I hate talking on the phone, especially if like we're not in a good space at that moment. Yeah. Like we're about to break up, and basically, I was fine for a little bit. Like I was good. I was good to break up. I was completely fine with it. But she like texted me, and then the minute like I saw her name like on my phone pop up, my heart started racing again. Literally, I'm like, it was like the stress of like dealing with her. Right. And like at that point, I was drinking Prime energy drinks. I still do every now and then, but I always drink energy drinks, and I was completely fine. And my friends are like, maybe it's because you're drinking that Prime. And I'm like, no, I've been drinking that shit for like 6 months, bro. I'm fine. Yeah. But
it's probably the situation.
Literally, then we stopped talking for like 2 weeks after that. She reappeared again. The minute she called me, my heart started racing again.
So see, that's a good pattern that you're noticing, that she was very toxic for you.
Oh, for sure.
Very
but it's like
unhealthy.
Oh, very unhealthy. I'm really good at taking myself away from the situation. But like you're saying, instead of being like, oh, there's something wrong with my heart, or let's get to like jumping the gun, is being able to realize like, okay, this isn't something completely wrong where I need to seek help. This is where I can detach from this girl. But you need to know when to be able to, distinguish your situations though. Right. Which is key.
Right. And, if you really just don't know and don't feel like you have support around you, like then seek the help, And one of the things I wanted to mention, so I'm a mental health clinician, and, me being independently licensed with my licensure, I can practice on my own. most of my experience the past 5 years has been in a medical setting. And the reason why I want to mention this is because this is one of the ways that Rhode Island, I'm speaking specifically for the state, you know, since I've graduated my master's program, they've initiated this program where like they put counseling in a primary care. So that's where most of my experience has been, just because it's a way to say, you know what, and think about it too, like in your situation, like whether it's you, your parents, your family members, like when something is wrong, you usually go to your primary care doctor, you know? So a lot of my referrals have came from doctors who say, hey, this person came in to see me and, you know, they haven't been sleeping, or, you know, they've been really sad for the last 2 weeks. Like, let's see if you can meet them and talk to them. And that's kind of how our relationship starts. And I'm decreasing stigma in that sense, because this person, let's say this person gets dropped off at their doctor's office for an appointment, right? They don't need to know what appointment it is.
You know, that's what I was to say too, because that's the thing too. Actually, in The Sopranos, oddly, was not thinking about bringing them up, but it just happened to be like you're in a thing. It's like, so the confidentiality of it too. It's like, instead of going out to, like, say if you just had an office in the middle of the street, like the middle of a busy street, people are going to know you're going into the office.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to kind of bring up. Like, how do you go if you're trying to be low key, where you're not being, oh, I'm going to see the clinician, or if someone doesn't want to have that stigma on them.
Yeah. So I think like some places even are like more hidden. So definitely a busy street probably wouldn't be a good place to put a private practice. Depending for sure. But the location, if that's something that you're worried about, you know, trying to find a way that works for you. I mean, now with society, after COVID and the pandemic, telehealth, which is like virtual like appointments, those have been a big thing now. And from the comfort of your car, from the comfort of your home, somewhere that you have a private space, you can virtually call your therapist and have a session with them. And even by phone sometimes too. So it's like, there's other ways like to go around this. And as we're talking about confidentiality, one of the main things I want to say is like, people only know what you tell them. Mm-hmm. So I know a lot of people think like, wow, like, I don't know what's wrong with me. Like, I don't want to seek help. Like, I you know, I might be feeling embarrassed. Someone might judge me, but it's like, in some situations they won't even know unless you tell them. Yeah,
that being said, like for 100%, it's kind of the same thing. Like if you're trying to eat healthy, if you're trying to be on a diet, if you're, you know, I'm on a diet. Oh, you're on a diet. What the hell? They only know you're on a diet because you just said that. You could have just said, you know what, I just ate, I'm fine. Mm-hmm. It's kind of bringing that attention to yourself, like you said. They only know what you tell them.
Right.
So someone told me that recently. Like, that's a good point. Like this is like kind of like a year ago, sort of ago. If you don't want someone to judge you, if you're eating healthy or not drinking or you're doing something, then don't tell them. Like you said, don't tell them. Yeah. They only know what you know.
Your mental health is so important, and only you need to know what you need for it. You know the kind of support or treatment you need to get for yourself, or that you're willing to try. And no one can judge you for that, because that's your decision.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like that's your decision, like, you know, like Cindy's saying. And it was your decision to get off social media. So you said it's been about a year. So, you know, that's a significant decision. So what do you think, what insights can you give taking that year break off for your Clinician Says, or have you been completely off social media?
So I've been on mine, on the Keep Up With Sin. That's my personal Instagram. It's private. I use it for more to connecting with my, my closest people. And even then, like, I have noticed that, like, I've just been more mindful with life in general, that, like, social media is no longer taking over me. Like, you know, I check it sometimes just to see what's going on. I'll be on it for, like, 5 minutes and then get off. Like, and even if you follow my personal page, like, you'll see, like, I barely have posted too. Like, I don't do that as often anymore. Like, I've just gradually, like, reduced my time on social media. And it's not, like, anything on purpose. It just happened just because I realized, like, being present in like, real time is just so much more important for me. And I prefer doing that. I like connecting with people in person and, like, being with my family and my friends, you know, my loved ones. There's just so much to it. But getting back to your
so the question was going to be, what insights or, like, personal growth did you experience, like, during this break, and how has it influenced your approach to mental health advocacy?
Yeah, so there's kind of a couple things here. So the Clinician Says went on a break. More so, it was February of 2023, and I just feel like that was a time in my life where I discovered so much about me. You mentioned ADHD earlier, and as an adult, I actually got diagnosed with that. And again, this has parts to it because, you know, I got that stigma from people in my life. They're like, you have ADHD? Like how? Like, you're a very calm person. And it's like, you know, ADHD has 3 different types. And a lot of people, they recognize it as a hyperactivity, you know, someone has to be like bouncing around and, you know, just walking back and forth, talking really fast, like, you know, but there's also inattention. And then there's also a combination of two of those. So I got diagnosed with the inattention, and that's when I really like found out, and it all makes sense now as an adult who's in my late 20s. Like, I'm like, wow, like it really has been hard for me to like balance a lot of things at once. Like, you know, and at this time of my life last year, like I was, you know, transitioning into different parts of like my young adult life, you know, moving out independently and like, you know, just having a lot of responsibilities on my plate. And with that being said, like being on social media and creating content, adding to like working full time, being a dog mom, being a partner, you know, figuring out so much with my health, like it was a lot to do, you know, and then like work was really stressful too, because I was working on independently too. So it was just like a lot of parts where I was just like, you know what, I need a break and I need to get help. And when I finally got the help, I had different parts of people like helping me realize like there's nothing wrong with you and you could handle stress, but there's just a lot going on. And right now we just got to find strategies for you to like be able to handle everything, you know? So I took a few months to do that. And a whole year later, I'm a lot healthier. I have a better like balance of time management and just like over like how to handle stress differently. So I do have to say that break, I found so much in myself. And even though, you know, ADHD, there's no cure to it, you know, like medication, people say like, oh, like, you know, there's such a stigma with medication too, you know, but it's something to help you cope while you're dealing with stress, you know. And then there's other strategies and interventions that we can learn, you know. Time management's a big problem for me. And like those who know me know I'm late. Like I'm telling you, I'm on the way. I'll be there 20 minutes. Yeah, right. I'll be there in an hour. Like I'm late everywhere.
You and Elray would be great together.
Time management's a real thing. And for so long, like people were like telling me like, what's wrong with you? You know, they were blaming me for being late. They were like, you're so irresponsible. And like, that's not even the case. Like, I'm not trying to be, but like the way that time works in my mind, like I'm not good with it to begin with. I'll tell myself, okay, like I only need 30 minutes for this. Like ends up being an hour and a half. Like, you know, I was completely wrong. And that's just something that I've learned about myself. And once I learned that for myself and started working on strategies and also educating the people around me, they also had more respect for me, you know.
Yeah, well, for sure. But, well, one, thank you for being early today then, because you were right on time.
Thank you. Thank you for the credit.
But, I mean, just, I'm not sure if this the other side of it, but, because I'm pretty laid back in situations, like a majority of situations. I think I don't get flustered and I don't care about things. I don't make situations out of nothing. It takes a lot for me to get upset, pretty much. Yeah. So do you think you're just like dealing with people who made little situations to big situations, which made you think about it more? Like, say like that was with me. No, I'm not talking behind his back. He's been on podcasts where we talk about it. Like Elray, this guy is notoriously late. He is like, we say 4, he gets there at 8. And yes, is it like frustrating? Yes, it can be like annoying for sure. But like, it's never to the point where I'm like, this fucking guy, like I'm like genuinely mad at him. So I'm not sure if people like are genuinely mad at you. Like I've never been like, yo, what's your problem and stuff like that. It's just like, you know what? That's Elray. That's how he's gonna be. What I wish he's not like that.
You just know him.
Yes, I wish he wasn't like that, but it is what it is. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So like, I don't make a big situation out of it. Mm-hmm. Like when he comes, he comes. Do you think people just like not you, that other person, are they just making big situations out of nothing, or that's something you said you've addressed it, like you said you're on time today, so is it like two sides of the coin, or is it strictly all on you, or is it on the other person as well?
I think it's a mix of both. So like again, before I've learned about myself and this problem that I've had, like, you know, I would just show up and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry I'm late, you know, but now I've learned to like kind of give a heads up, you know?
Yeah, like you just wouldn't take their feelings into consideration, is what you're saying. Now you're being more, you're being considerate of other people's time now too. Yeah. I mean, I brought this up plenty of times, but like I've seen a podcast with LeBron. Obviously, you know, LeBron's, I can imagine, super busy. And he said that if he plans something with somebody for the first time and they're late, that's his first and last time making plans with you. He's like, he's too busy. If you're not going to respect his time, then he's not going to respect you as a friend, and he's just done with that relationship. With someone that level, it's like, I get it. It's like, if you're going to waste his time, then
sure.
don't even bother.
And in certain situations, like, again, like, this is something I'm dealing with in my personal life, right? But as a clinician, when I have appointments, like, I have a schedule to follow. So, like, my clients should respect that appointment time too. You know, like, if you're going to be more than 15 minutes late, we're going to have to cancel your session, because I can't let us run late and then go into my other client's appointment, you know? So there's definitely boundaries in certain situations.
Oh, for sure. And do you think being a professional in that aspect helps you realize, like, damn, I'm kind of being a hypocrite. If people can't be late to me, I can't be late to Jimmy John's birthday, where I'm like, hey, sorry, I'm 2 hours late. And you're like, wait, well, I was just mad at Jimmy John earlier for being late to his appointment.
So I don't know. I kind of disagree with what you just said, because, you know, ADHD, it's not an excuse. It's not made up. It's a neurodevelopmental issue. So this is how my brain works, you know? So I'm not trying to be a hypocrite, but, like, if someone tells me, and I've also came up with a technique with my friends, like, my friends are amazing. Like, they know about my time management issues. So now our deal is, like, if reservations are at 7:30, tell me they're at 7, because I'll get there on time.
But you know they're lying. So what's the difference?
No, like, the way my brain works, it's okay. Because some of them still, you know, some of them.
That's when people say that. They're like, oh, just lie over. But he's going to know I'm lying. So if I say, hey, maybe at 6, he knows goddamn well I'm not going to dinner at 6. So why when I say 6, he knows I'm lying.
Yeah, but the way my brain works is, like, if we plan dinner for 7:30, or you tell me 7, the way my brain works is, okay, I have to finish getting ready at 7. And I'm in my car and going. Like, again,
we're not arguing. I'm just bringing up the other side. I'm just curious. Like, I'm generally, like, even saying the hypocrite thing, I'm just, like, bringing the opposite side to it just for conversational purposes. Yeah. I'm genuinely intrigued, because when someone's like that, it's like, Elray will ask me, or you'll ask me. Let's say you, for instance, or Elray, whatever, both are late apparently. So if you're asking me, hey, Effie, what time is dinner? And I say 8. You guys are going to show up no matter what time I say. So I'm going to say the birthday party's at 10. I'm
going to try, though. If I'm hungry, I'm going to try.
So I'm going to say, so like, oh, you having your birthday party, your 30th birthday party, or wherever. It's at Needle and Thread. Okay, what time does it start? Why does it matter? You're going to show up at 12 anyway.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain situations.
Like my head when people say that, I was like, why would I?
I mean, Elray, you can't show up 4 hours late. Like, that's just not okay.
Elray,
I'm talking about
Natalia.
30, maybe 45 minutes on a bad day when I'm really rushing. But usually 30 minutes late is, like, what I'm running on.
Interesting. It's just intriguing conversation to have. I just don't lie anymore. Again, whatever. It starts at 8. You're gonna show up at whatever time anyway. Like, Natalia will show up at 1 a.m. and be like, I will never forget this time in high school or college, whenever it was. I was having a party. It started at whatever time, like, 10, 11, whenever it typically start. Natalia showed up at 3 a.m. And she's like, where's everybody? They left. They left, motherfucker. What do you mean, where's everybody? They were here.
That's something she would say.
5 hours. What do you mean where they were? And she was like, genuinely, oh, where were they? Bro, I don't know what to tell you. You're 5 hours late. So.
Usually there's, like, and this is probably me being the empathetic and understanding, right? But, like, there's probably a reason we were late. Just saying. There's other things that can distract us. And, again, I can only speak from my experiences with ADHD. Like, sometimes, again, so my time is wrong. But then something I've also learned about myself is, like, when I'm focused on something, like, that's the only thing that matters in that moment. So it's hard for me to dive into something because I don't want to stop it, and this kind of goes along with everything. If I'm cleaning, I need to finish cleaning then and there, because if not, I'm going to get distracted with something else, and then that cleaning is just going to stay there, and then something else that helps me too is, like, chunks of time. Like, I'm telling you, time is, like, definitely one of my biggest flaws. And again, it's something that I've learned about myself. People around me have learned about about me, and it's helped our relationship too, because, again, communication is everything. And, just respecting that, like, okay, like, you need this amount of time for this, like, we're going to give you that, I don't know where I was going with this.
That's all good. It's all good. No, I definitely understand it for sure. Like, time management is definitely a big thing as well. And just go back to touching back what you said earlier, because I've been bringing this up on podcasts recently, and I've been implementing it in my life as well. As people know, like, I'm definitely on social media. I got my YouTube page, I got TikTok, I got Instagram.
Yes.
2, I got my personal and my podcast one. So, I got the podcast, Instagram, TikTok. And
can I disrupt you?
Yeah, for sure. Go for it.
How do you make time for all that?
Yeah, I can definitely get to that. But so what I was about to say, I like the questions. No one ever asked questions, so I'm not gonna forget that question. But just when I'm with somebody, now. Like, say, no matter who it is, it could be a date, it could be with Elle, with Brandon, Casey, my mom. I don't like to go. Like, if I'm out on dinner or at a bar, I'm not pulling my phone out no more. Like, I don't pull my phone out really at all.
Okay.
So just give, like you said earlier, giving that people the respect of like, we're going out together, let's have a good time together. I don't need to be on my phone. Don't get me wrong, like, I check in every now and then, sure, but I'm not gonna be just on my phone 24/7, scrolling. So I think that's bigger now, because you go out with somebody and it's just people on their phone 24/7. And like, I was just in Phoenix. These fuckers stole my idea. I've been in the podcast. I've said it before. You guys, Elle, Brandon, Casey. I said it. This is my goddamn idea. They took it from me. But having a bar where, like in Phoenix, we went. I'm gonna put it up on my personal page at some point. It's called the Trophy Room. It's cool though. You go there. You put your phone in a lockbox. They have like a whole wall of like lock boxes, and you put your phone in there. You have to. You can't go in. And you go in. It's everyone just talking to each other.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I went with Casey, and we met these two people from Phoenix. They were a vibe, but like, we would have never spoke to them if we were on our phones there. Because there was a time where we weren't talking to each other. We would just go on our phone on Instagram, TikTok, or whatever.
Those awkward moments, right?
Exactly.
Or then getting caught up in taking videos and pictures that you're not even enjoying the moment. You know?
Exactly. I've been saying that from the jump, that we should have something like that around here. It would just be cool. You go in. I'll have a camera set up. We could take photos at a backdrop. Everyone likes doing that. You can send it to yourself, but that's it. No Apple Watches, no phones. Get that like back to the 80s, 90s vibe where you're going and actually talking to people. Because I feel like people go and no one talks to each other. It's a vibe. Trophy Room is a vibe. It was cool as shit.
Yeah, that sounds like so much fun.
Yeah, it's like, and some people are like, oh, but like, why would, like, you think people are actually going to go and do it? I'm like, well, I did it in Phoenix. I think it's like a cool, the shit was packed.
If you want to go in there, you got to do it.
Yeah.
You got to follow the rules, you know?
It was cool. So, but getting back to your question, how do I do it? I even, it's so funny with Casey in Phoenix, we did so much. I was there for like 5 days. I only posting stuff from Phoenix for like weeks. I got so much content from everywhere I've been. But I got off the plane and she's like, oh, like, you want to go back to the hotel and change? I'm like, hell no. I'll change in the bathroom. I literally changed in the bathroom at the airport. I landed. She picked me up. We went to 2 bars. Next day, we went somewhere early in the morning. I forget where we went. What did we do on Friday? Oh, that was Friday I came. Wait, I don't know what we did. Oh, she had to work. But then the next day, we went to Grand Canyon, went to Antelope Canyon. We came back, went to a bar, went out, came back next morning, went hot air balloon, came back, did that, ATVing, came back, went to the Suns game, woke up the next day, went to restaurants in between that, went to bars in between that. When I left, Casey said she slept for 17 hours straight. She's like, I was so tired. Yeah. Like, I've been out with like my exes. I went an ex in New Orleans, and she was like, can we like stop? She's like, are you not tired? I'm like, no, I'm good. Like, and it's not like excessive. You've been around me, but it's not like this guy needs to fucking like shut up or something. Like, I'm just natural. Like, vacations, I can go into overdrive. Mm-hmm. That being said, even like with social media and stuff like that, I don't know. I was like, the podcast, I don't put up like clips like this week, but in my head, I'm trying to do like 2 a day. My personal, I've done like a post like every single day this week. I don't know how, honestly, I don't know. I don't have like a set schedule. So people think I have like a set schedule. I don't know. It's just in my head, I'm like, I need to do this. So I'm going to do it. Mm-hmm. Like, I'll figure out time to go to the gym. I'll figure out time to go to work. Different ventures and stuff like that. Honestly, I can't give you an answer. It's just like a ambition like in my head. I listen to a lot of podcasts of like entrepreneurs and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. You know, I've listened to Kevin Hart's books, David Goggins, a bunch of different people who inspire me. Like Mark Cuban is dope too. I'm not sure if you know who he is. Mm-hmm. Just different entrepreneurs who've made it, and it's like they just don't stop. Like The Rock. Like when does this guy sleep? Kevin Hart. Yeah. When the hell does this guy sleep? Stephen A. Smith. He's a sports personality. This dude is up all day. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if they can do it, why can't I do it? Type of thing. It's like, I think like the drive, the inspiration to like help people out. Because even on the podcast, I'm giving people, a platform and stuff like that. I'm generally intrigued in their conversations, getting people on, learning from them. I don't know, it's just like the drive to always be better for myself, I think. Where it's like, I could be doing more. Yeah. Like, yeah, I'm doing fine right now, but I think I could be doing more, and I want to do more. Mm-hmm. So I can't really, instead of having downtime, instead of watching like, don't get me wrong, I do watch Netflix and stuff like that, like streaming apps or whatever. But in my downtime, I'm like, instead of doing that, I want to learn and
Be productive.
Like, he came on the podcast, but Carlos, he teaches bachata and salsa, and I could always dance bachata, but like, I thought I was like really good, but I guess I was really basic. I thought I knew how to dance salsa, but definitely did not. I can now, but like, to the downtime, I was taking classes with him. Mm-hmm. I've been taking Spanish class like 4 days a week for like 5 months. So instead of like, oh, let's just sit at home doing nothing or something like that, like let me find stuff to do in my downtime and like improve myself. So I'm always like on the go. Long-winded answer. You can dive into that more, but basically for me, I think it's just the drive to do better and not being content. And I'm just like, I'm gonna do it.
All right. No, that's really awesome to hear because it sounds like you juggle a lot. So
with the traveling in between.
right.
Yeah, but I mean that's
Go
me.
you.
You can go in if you want.
Yes.
For me, I think it's just like no excuses from people. Like you said, kind of coming back to what you said. For me, at least, no excuses for me. You know, everyone's different, but I guess I'm just holding myself to like let's see what more I can conquer and what more I can do, and maybe half of it too is like proving people wrong too. Because I know, like in high school, I went back to my old high school, did like a little talk. I was cool with the teacher. Shout out Mr. Vargas, he's the man, and he reached out to me. He's like, I want to come back and talk to the kids. I did, whatever. Long story short. One of the teachers, she wasn't even my teacher. She was like, oh, I heard you do this and this and that. I didn't expect that from you. I'm like, what? Like, first off, you don't even know me like that. So it's like having that stigma of like who I was or what people think I am. I don't know.
Or what
like,
you could do.
What could do and stuff like that. It makes me like, all right, I'm going to prove everybody wrong type of thing. Just internal ambition, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for you, that was me. What personal experiences or turning points led you to a career in mental health? That's what led me to want to prove people wrong. What led you to get into the career space of mental health? And how have those approaches shaped your approach to counseling? Are those even correlate with each other? Like, what personal experiences or turning points led you to choose a career in mental health?
All right, let's stick with
Let's get that one first.
So honestly, probably just personal experiences and just the passion for wanting to advocate for others. I didn't even know I wanted to be a therapist. Like, I mean, going back a few years, I wanted to be a teacher from like young. And when I started college, I had some internships where I practiced that, and I saw the limitations right away where I was like, okay, like I do not, first of all, want to get up early and have this very strict schedule. Also, the limitations of the impact I was going to have on those children. I was like, this is way too limited for me. Like, I care too much about this child and that child versus the whole classroom and what I have to teach them. So I was like, this isn't for me. And that's when like I had a conversation with another like social work professor at the college, and we had a talk. And at this time, like, there was also a social work stigma where they're like, oh, like this career sucks. You're not going to make money. Like, there's not much to do with it. And once I had this conversation with this professor, she really like broadened that for me. And she was like, this is probably what you want to do and just don't know it. And that's when I started doing research, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it regardless of my parents' approval or not. Because they were really like, be a teacher. Like, you're going to make so much money. And I was like, yeah, but it's just not really for me, And once I got into social work, it was got my bachelor's in it first, and from the bachelor's program I had the opportunity to do my master's program in a year. So I did that, and within those
It's like gangsta.
Yeah, I know you don't hear about that often, but to get my bachelor's and my master's within a couple of years, that was amazing experiences. I was able to travel to Puerto Rico after the Hurricane Maria and like help out there and just see so much trauma in the individuals that stayed there and survived that like really traumatic experience. And, at that point, I was really just helping with basic needs and just resources. And like, the second year, that's the year that we like provided like mental health training and like support, but we couldn't do the counseling. But I just saw how much people were hurting and how much it affected them, but also how strong they were. And that was like so empowering for me that I was like, I want to help people. Like, I want to help with mental health. I want to learn more about this. I want to learn how to help people recognize that strength within themselves. And that's when like everything changed for me. And once I got my master's and license and everything, I got more experience. I had a really great support network at that point. And I've been doing it now for the past 5 years, you know. But I think ultimately, like, now knowing as much as I do, I'm like, okay, like, I've gone through this in my life, and I'm like, I just wanted someone that can understand me and support me, and that's what I want to do for others. I want to be able to help them and hear them and share with them that it's okay. Like, mental health matters, and we're going to get through this.
You know, for sure. And you actually did answer the question. I said, how have these experiences shaped your approach to counseling? And you actually answered that within the question. Okay, so that it did correlate. I was wrong. I made these questions. I don't remember. But, you know, definitely, I mean, that's a lot to it. That's cool. Like you said, when people have like a path for you and it's not for you, you know it's not for you. Like, I've, you know, just kind of
challenge that shit.
Yeah, challenge that shit for sure. Like, you know, I've had people, I have friends who people ask me all the time, is there somewhere you want to move? And I've never had that, like, I've traveled a lot and I've never been somewhere and I'm like, this is for me. I have a friend, Chris, who's been on the podcast. Like, when I came to Colombia, I'm like, this is where I want to be. And so, like, you know, that same thing, like your career, like someone's telling you like, oh, you know, Colombia's for you. And I'm like, yo, it's not for me. Like, I don't know. If people, it might be for you. Right. That's you. Being a teacher might be for whoever's telling you to be a teacher, like your parents, but it wasn't for you. But you knew coming into it, this is for me. Okay, you get that, you know.
Early, be here by 7. What? I can't do that.
You're like 7. You guys tell me 5 a.m. You know, then I'll be there on time.
Right. I'll be going to the meeting. Like, oops, the class started 2 hours ago.
I was like, oh, we need that substitute teacher because I'm late, baby. You know, for sure. And the follow-up question to that was, you know, bilingual counseling involves more. That's your parents. But for counseling, I'm not sure, do you have bilingual, like, clients?
Yes, I do.
So bilingual counseling involves more than just being able to be bilingual. Is there like a challenge in navigating the cultural nuances and emotional expressions unique to both English and Spanish speaking clients? Like, is there like, do you have to deal with like just not the, I guess, is there cultural battles yet? Like for your parents, obviously there is, but like, do you deal with that more with clients, or do you think people come in seeking your advice and help are more prone to like being helpful, or you still have to deal with those same things you're dealing with your parents with?
So I feel like when it's like young adults or like adults, it's not too bad. Some adults have like difficulty understanding, again, because of maybe how they were raised. I feel that I see this challenge a lot when it's like children who obviously are raised in America, but then they have parents who weren't, or just were raised with like even more like cultural parents, you know? But I just feel like a lot of the time I'm doing a lot of education, like letting them know, like, you know, and just normalizing things like, you know, there's something wrong with your child, you know, and people think that treatment means medication, and it's not just medication. And like sometimes medication is something that can help too, you know, so it's just really normalizing. But yeah, I feel like culturally, I mean, I think it helps that I'm bilingual. Yo hablo español. And a lot of people relate to me because of that, especially if those who don't speak English, like they can understand me, you know, we can talk about certain things in certain ways. It's not like I have to use a translator or have somebody translate for them. So I just feel like messages come across a lot better. No,
like more genuine, like more you understand genuine, where they're coming from, for sure.
And, you know, in my approach as a therapist, I mean, I have to understand their culture, you know, so if they differ from Dominicans, you know, I want to know about that. And before I even like pitch in on like education or normalizing or, you know, exploring certain things, I want to know more about their culture and how these certain symptoms or problems have like affected them or affected their families. And just, I want to know more about it before I go in and like intervene. And I think that's my main approach. I don't think, you know, I think culturally, you know, I'm like, something that I also care about too is like making sure that the information is available in Spanish. I think we have so much information in English, and I take a lot of time also creating like workbooks and certain worksheets in Spanish that aren't already available. So that's something that eventually when I get my Clinician Says back up, that's going to be something to offer.
I just get it. Get it, baby. Yeah. So touching back to Sopranos.
You like that, huh?
I don't think it's that good of a show. I'm just watching because like I've been told, watched a million times, just happened to be, it correlates perfectly with this because Tony's therapist has
to watch this.
Yeah, it's on up your alley. His therapist has a therapist. So how do you feel about therapists having therapists? Is that like, because when he found that out, he was upset. He's like, what? Upset? He was upset. And this was, again, based in the 98, stuff like that. But he was like, why does my therapist have a therapist? Do you think there's stigma coming with that? And what's your thoughts on that?
We are all human. And I think, you know, to one extent, I think that being a client, seeing your therapist, right? Like you see this person as like, wow, like this is a goddess, right? Like they know so much, like they're helping me, like this is my person, right? And this is why there should always be that confidential like line there, because like someone once told me too, like I think I had asked somebody that I knew, I was like, oh, how do you like your therapist? And their comment was, I know nothing about them. And I'm like, huh, okay.
They shouldn't know anything about them.
They shouldn't know anything about you, you know? And I think that's something I truly like try to do as well. Like I'm on social media. My personal page is private. So if a client sees this, I'm sorry. I'm not going to add you. The Clinician Says it's public, and that's obviously the platform I want to be on. And eventually once I offer services, even then there'll be more like, there'll be some policies around that too. Like if I'm already seeing you in therapy, like I'm not going to be able to offer you services online. Like there has to be those policies, you know, to kind of separate the two. But what I was just basically saying is just like, I've even heard that too, like where people go like, wait, you go through things? And it's like, yeah, like I'm a human. And just because this is my profession, like I still have things going on, you know, and that's not a conversation I have with my clients. I mean, for the most part, they respect that about me. But, you know, for example, like there's a surgery coming up in my future and I want to be on medical leave, and medical leave means that I'm not going to be able to see my clients for some time, you know, and something that I was so hesitant about is even telling them, because I'm like, some of my clients might ask me, you know, like about my personal life. And I don't.
Did you get a BBL?
Let's see. Just kidding. But yeah, like I was just like really thinking about my clients. I'm like, you know, this is something personal to me, and I'm not one to really, I'm such a humble person, and this doesn't even have to do with my profession, but just in general, like, you know, my personal life and my personal life, I really want it to be like private, you know, and just share it with the ones who are closest to me. So, you know, when I was like, I have to tell my clients about this, like, you know, I know there's going to be some of them that are going to ask me about certain things. I'm like, what do I say, you know? But I
you feel bad if you're like, hey, I can't talk about this.
No, that's the boundary I allow. Like I put, you know, I make that boundary because I have to do that. I mean, how does that change? I'm wondering, like, in that character, like, how did that change?
I haven't got to it yet. I just got to the episode where he's like, find out he's upset. There's a lot to it. Basically, he likes his therapist, so like he had one of his like guys who works for him, like he's on his private eye guy, tail her because he wants to like know what she's up to because like he likes her, type of thing. So that's how he found out she's a therapist. So I don't know what happens next.
All right, well, get back to me on that. Unless I watch it myself, but
yeah, I mean it's good, but
I
like
think there's nothing wrong with it though, honestly. And again, that should be confidential. Like I don't know how he found out, but
he had his private eye follower. That's how.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So she's like, yeah, he hasn't told her yet, but yeah. So that being said, so
it's not as easy as that sounds though. Usually that stuff is very confidential, even to get records, like you need releases, like, you know, that stuff is really private. So if you're thinking about getting a therapist, get one. Don't think about anybody else. Like, do it for you.
I mean, have you know, being, you said it's not, you guys are all human. Have you had like any? Do you think being in your position, do you need to go through that yourself, or is that something? I guess everyone's different. So like you specifically, did you have to go through something yourself to be in the position you are in now? Or is this something you just want to help people out in?
Are you asking if I've gone to therapy?
Not therapy. I mean, therapy or like, I mean, anything like you've gone through any experiences you've gone through that made you like be more empathetic for people. Like, did you have any like traumas or anything like that? You're willing to speak about on camera to like, you know, like you said, everyone goes through stuff. So I'm not sure if you had anything you want to speak about or not, or you can tell me. Next question.
No, it's okay. I mean, I went to counseling at the age of 15, and that was the first time I ever had done it, I think. And I had been in it for a couple of years, and then, you know, I've stopped, I've gone back. I've had moments where I'm like, oh, I just need to talk to someone, so I do, and then times where I'm okay. So yeah, I mean, I've definitely sought it for what I needed it to. The other thing, too, with the social work profession, I can only talk for social work. That's the experience I have in. Something that's so important is that, like, while you're practicing with your first licensure, like, after you graduate, you need to get supervision. And supervision is basically, like, a one-on-one with, like, another social worker, another therapist who's going to be able to, like, you know, just usually it's 1 hour a week, sometimes it can be more than that, but it's a time where you can talk about certain clients, or sometimes even have like self-reflection. So I feel like for a lot of it, like as I was like learning this like whole field and like what I was doing, you know, having that support with a good supervisor, like I was able to really learn about experiences, certain diagnosis, like certain things I can do for them, but then also reflect on myself, because of course in my field, like, well, in my setting, right, in a medical setting, working with children, adults, like families, like I've seen everything. Like at this point, I've seen all the different populations, but I've also seen so many different situations in terms of depression, anxiety, ADHD, trauma, domestic violence, substance use. Like I've literally seen so many things that I've learned from, and some of them are harder than others, you know, because whether I relate to them or I don't know enough about it, you know, but supervision really helped me get through it. And that's something I'm going to be offering as well, part of my clinician side stuff.
Make sure you tap in. The Clinician Says, baby. Let's get it.
Yeah, social workers get to me.
Oh, for sure, for sure. So like you said, you know, you're 15. Do you think there's a difference? Like, what's the difference of speaking to a social or like a therapist opposed to speaking to one of your best friends?
Oh, it's so different. And no offense to any of my best friends, but I think like just in general, when you're thinking about a friend versus a professional, you know, a friend is going to be like sympathetic in a sense, right? Like when you tell a friend like, hey, I'm going through this, their first response is usually like, I'm sorry you're going through this. And that feels good to hear, right? But sometimes that also can go to, I'm sorry, you know, I know you feel that way. So do I, or so have I, or I went through something like that too, you know? So in a friendship, it's like a two-way street, right? Where like you express something, but then they also want to share something with you. Whereas a professional therapist, right? Psychiatrist or like any of the mental health professionals, right? Like you don't know anything about them. They're not there for that hour, that session to talk about them. They're there to talk about just you. So even if I feel a certain way with when my client says something, that's not for me to tell them. Like I'm there to help them out and support them. And that session is all about them. That's how I view it, you know, and that's how most of our like mental health professionals, they think that way, you know? And I just think that that's the difference. Like therapy and all these mental health treatments, that it's about you and how you get supported, versus a friendship, you know, there's just less boundaries there with that confidentiality, because your best friend, your friend, you know, accidentally can go tell another friend, right? Or in public, announce it really loudly, you know? And again, they probably didn't do it intentional, but like, there's just no boundaries there where a therapist can't go and talk about it in the hallway, you know?
You know, for sure. For sure. I mean, do you think there's, phrase that wrong. So when someone tells you something, are you giving them, what's like it's like the structure there? Like say if I'm telling you something, the premise is, okay, say I have a girlfriend, I cheated on her, I was wrong, she dumped me. That's real quick. Like, I was wrong, I admit to you, I cheated on her, you know, whatever, but she broke up with me. Are you going to be like, no, you were wrong? Or is that type of thing where you're kind of just being like, oh no, like, are you sympathetic towards that? Or are you just like, so, you give them the hard honest truth, like, okay, you were wrong, like, you should probably say you're sorry, stuff like that. Like, how does that go about? So
one of the things I always say too, like, we don't give advice. A lot of clients don't like hearing that. They're like, I came to you so you could tell me what to do. It's like, no.
Wow. Yeah.
Like, we're here to help you figure out what you need to do. Like, I can't tell you what to do, Effie. Like, if you're starting to wake up in the middle of the night, I can't tell you go back to sleep or take a med. Like, I can give you those options, you know, but at the end of the day, you have to decide what is best for you, because you know yourself. So we don't give advice. And, you know, there's certain situations in therapy where we might confront someone, right? Like, if this is ongoing and, you know, these situations keep happening, at some point, like, the therapist has to be real with you and tell you, like, hey, Effie, all right, let's look into this, because now more than one person's saying this about you, you know?
You know, yeah,
like,
quote I love is, if you go outside and one person's an asshole, that person's an asshole. If 2 or 3 people are an asshole, maybe you're the asshole.
That's a good point. Yeah. So, yeah, I think a lot of the therapeutic interventions in therapy are really related on having you self-reflect and process things.
I feel like a lot of people... I feel like majority of people, you correct me if I'm wrong, think you guys are for advice. I feel like that's what you know, if people slip up and they've told me, oh yeah, you know, I see a therapist, blah, 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 blah. And I tell them this, I'm like, I was under the impression it's like they're giving them advice.
No, not necessarily. I mean, there's certain times where I might be more direct about, hey, you need to do this now at this point, you know, but most of the time, like, I'm over here, like, so if this was a situation that where you came to me for relationship advice, for whatever, you know, I may just ask you certain questions so that you can answer them yourself.
I've had a girlfriend for a year, and I got really drunk last night, hooked up with a girl, and she went through my phone, she saw the texts, and she called me.
Then what?
I mean,
How
yeah,
do you
she
feel
took
after
she took
that?
all her stuff and she left.
Okay.
I mean, I kind of don't blame her.
Yeah. I mean, what would you do if it was you looking through her phone, you know?
I would have been pissed.
Would you have done the same thing?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, more than likely for sure. Yeah, I would have.
What do you think she felt?
Pissed off. I mean, we've been going on the past year, so.
So what made you do that? Just kidding. Let's stop
Yeah,
there.
I mean,
So basically, like, that's what we do. Like, usually responses should be questions. Like, they should be exploratory. Like, it's really helping you get to the bottom of why did you do that? And now, what does this mean for you? And if it's a pattern, how do we stop this pattern for you? Because now you do this to one person. Can you do it again to another person? Like, how do we maintain relationships so that they're healthy for you? You know? So there's a lot to it. You know, there's a lot of different interventions that we learn as mental health professionals, and you know, it depends on the situation. For someone, for example, that uses substances or wants to go to the gym, but it's so hard for them to get to the gym, like, you know, there's certain techniques that we use, right, to increase motivation. So that might not be the same thing that we're doing for someone who just lost somebody. You know, there's different techniques that we use. So it really is all depending on the situation.
yeah, depending on the situation, like you're saying, is there ever situations that, like, being in like such a serious like setting, is there ever like a time and place for like humor in like the, you know, the clinician space? You know, I feel like there wouldn't be. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Like, is there time for humor inside those situations?
Sometimes. Tell me why you think that there's not.
I feel like majority of the time you're going in there, you're talking about, I've had to assume it's morely like, I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, this is coming from the side of it, morely like more not positive stuff. That's the best way to say it. I think you're going there like you feel some type of way, you're upset about a situation, you're upset your boyfriend or girlfriend did this to you, or you're feeling some type of way about, you're upset, you're depressed, or you can't sleep, like you're saying. Is there times where people come up to you for more like positivity and they're coming to you when they're feeling good? I feel like, or is it more the depressing, and when would humor play into that?
So I guess it just depends on where the person's at. There are clients who definitely come to you when they're maybe at a stressful point of their lives or a different mental health stage of their lives. Sometimes when you see someone for so long, you also see that positive side, right? Where you see them feeling happier and they still want to continue following up with you. Maybe it's not as every week or as frequent, but maybe we follow up every couple of months, you know, or every month, or, you know, you share what you've been able to accomplish and what you are still able to achieve and continue practicing, you know. So I'd say, like, it's not all about the negative stuff. Like, we definitely have some positive, you know, and even in the negative, like, my approach is to also try to find the positive, you know. A lot of the times with depression, like, we feel so alone, we feel so sad, and it's like, you know, despite all of that, and this is not me like downplaying any of that, right? But towards the end of a session, usually I say, but what's one good thing that happened to you, you know, or tell me one thing that you're going to try to, like, be mindful of until the next time I see you, you know, what's one thing that you're going to practice gratitude towards, you know, and just trying to implement that positivity. But some people have it already and I don't have to do much, you know. And before you say anything, to get back to that humor, it's appropriate sometimes. I would just say to be sensitive, you know, it's not, you have to know the time to use it. You know, if someone's crying, I'm not going to laugh at them, you know. But for example, sometimes we have situations where, you know, someone's so stressed, but then they might be saying something about a situation that happened. And that's where I might, you know, have a giggle with them, you know, because yeah, you're stressed, but you know, you dealt with that, or you witnessed that, or they did that, you know, like, let's laugh about it. And it's all about body language. So, you know, I'm trying to make that person stop crying. I'm trying to make them stop feeling so angry. So I'm trying to use different techniques to help them realize, like, you know, we don't have to be in that stage all the time or that mood all the time. You know, we can try different things.
You know, for sure, I guess that's a stigma we can also, like, everyone, like, the mental health space could address as well. It's like, it's not always just negativity, it's positivity as well. And I feel like you don't associate that as much, and that's something that could also be addressed as well, for sure.
Yeah, especially with you when you said, I can only assume.
Yeah, I was going the opposite side. You know, it's podcasting duties. You know, you gotta get you somewhere to speak. You know, I'm leading you up and throwing you an alley-oop over here. But if you were a superhero in the mental health universe, what would be your superpower? And what kind of challenges would you tackle? I shocked you on this one. This was a fun question I kept.
Superpower as a mental health clinician?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. I want to offer free therapy and free medication to all my clients.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a superpower of every superhero, for sure. That's definitely something where I feel like people, you know, that can be also a thing where they want to get help. They're like, how much does it cost and stuff like that, or what are my copays and things along those lines, for sure.
Can I say a second one?
Yeah.
I want to disappear all the stigma. Honestly, we shouldn't deal with that. We should get the help and the support that we need when we need it. We shouldn't be questioned about certain things. We shouldn't have comments that are judgmental and make us feel worse about ourselves. Like, we shouldn't have to deal with that. And I hope that after this talk, like, seeing me as a young professional, a Dominican female, young, I want to emphasize young because, like, I think it's amazing. I graduated at 23. By 24, I was already a therapist. And, you know, I've got even comments too from some clients like, wait a minute, you're my therapist now? And it's like, excuse me, like, I have a lot of education, like, I can help you, you know. And people, sometimes I've been like rejected because of that, of how young I am. And then I also had other people who were like, I can't believe you've helped me so much, like, you're the age of my child, you know. And then I've had other people around my age, around that young like a young adult population, who are like, I relate so much to you, I trust you, I like you, like, I want to keep talking to you. So I've gotten so many different criticisms, but that just makes me stronger as the person I am. And I'm so proud of where I've gotten and the opportunities I've had to be where I am. And really, like, grateful to be here talking about this. 'Cause, like I said,
have you had any like memorable like language mix-ups, like, in I guess in your life or in like counseling sessions, or like you mix up like speaking Spanish with English and everything like that?
Oh my God. With my Spanish clients, like, I always say sorry in advance. Like, I speak Spanglish because there's just certain words you just cannot translate. And that's the thing too. Like, when you're getting a degree, like in America, you're getting that shit in English. So, like, all of my learning techniques were given to me in English. Like, my books were in English. Like, my training was in English. My professors were mostly English speaking. So it's like, you know, I had to learn how to translate therapeutic interventions in Spanish. There's very limited resources. And that's, again, one more thing I'm going to advocate for, like, in my field, because we need it, like, especially with our culture, you know. We need to share information with people. We need to teach them how to do certain things and understand where things are coming from. We need to teach them breathing techniques. We need to teach them coping strategies to help them not feel as stressed or react to things, right? And if it's in English, that's not going to make any use for them. Yeah. But yeah, I definitely speak Spanglish.
Yeah, and as a clinician, how do you continue to grow professionally and stay up to date on the latest developments in the field?
Yes. So in social work specifically, we do a lot of research. We're very research-based. So just reading online databases, keeping up with, like, you know, podcasts exist. We do a lot of workshops, and it's actually required for our license to do like continuing education credits. So every few years we have to report it. So it's something that, you know, we have to continue doing trainings. I take advantage of any training that comes my way, especially if it's free, because that shit is not cheap. But, you know, I just learn a lot. And especially being online now, a lot of things, like, you know, on my clinician page, I follow a lot of, like, mental health pages, and I learn about different strategies because some people specialize in certain things. And, you know, just from those brief posts, like, I can learn a lot about from them, or like watching videos. You know, the DSM, which is like our Bible for mental health professionals, like, that's the one that has all the diagnosis. Like, even till this day, like, if I'm 5 years in, I'm still learning about new diagnosis, and there's always revisions to those books. So,
you know what that abbreviation stands for?
Yeah, it's it's like diagnostic statistical manual, I think it is.
Sounds good to me.
I think so.
Sounds good to me.
Make sure you Google it first, though. I'm pretty sure it is, though.
I was just curious. Yeah. So, and for individuals facing mental health challenges or contemplating seeking support, what advice or guidance would you offer based on your experiences as a clinician?
So I'd say seek help no matter what. No matter what they think about you, no matter what critical things you're saying to yourself, do it. Find help. Start with your doctor if you need to. Look online. Call your insurance.
Tap into the Clinician Says.
Yes, follow me. I'm going to have so many resources available to you. And eventually, or even now, like you can still contact me if you have questions. I can always guide you how to find someone. And I do have a specific post that also tells you like the main like links or ways that you can find a therapist for you. Another thing too, I would just say start small. Like if finding treatment is too much of a big step for you, you know, just start reading things online. Again, finding information, you know, learning more about yourself, finding ways that you can kind of like look into yourself. So journaling is a really great way. And I know people are like, oh, I don't want to write. I'm in a diary or in a journal. But sometimes, you know, especially if you're feeling away, angry or sad, like just write to yourself. And you can literally do that physically with a pen and notebook. You can do that on your phone. Like we have a notes app. For sure. They have downloadable apps that you can also use that like have journal prompts and stuff. So, you know, just start small. Don't overwhelm yourself. Don't tell anyone if you don't want people to judge you or even just come off with that. You know, and even seek people that might understand you. You know, if you do have that one person in your family or your friends that you're like, they support me, I could talk to them, you know, do it. And you might actually be surprised.
I have a couple of questions I like to ask everybody on the podcast. If you had a billboard in Times Square, what would be on your billboard? It can be graphics, it can be text, it can be whatever you want. You have a movable one, you have one that stays in place, but big billboard in Times Square. What would be on the Clinician Says Cindy's billboard in Times Square?
Mental health matters. Duh.
Yeah, for sure. Would you have a graphic on there? And the Clinician Says logo in the back. Yes. That's in the top corner right now with that, baby. And
you better zoom that in.
Oh, hey, I used to have big logos like on the page, but it throws people off. It's telling you, it looks better. Like that. Telling you, I used to have go back to old podcasts and you'll see the big EG pod on the right. It wasn't the vibe. It's too big. It's like
you learn from that.
Yeah, for sure. You definitely learn. Yeah, no, for sure. It was a great podcast. You have any last words for anything had to do with the Clinician Says you want to end off? 2024 is just starting. It is January 11th. This podcast will be posted somewhat in maybe the next 2 or 3 weeks. Got a couple of podcasts lined up. So this should be dropped in February. So do you have anything for upcoming 2024? Any expectations? Anything they should see coming from Cindy 2024?
Yes. So like I said, I've been next month when this releases, it will be like about a year that I've been offline. The Clinician Says, but it's going to come back. I've been working behind the scenes. I'm working with a marketing expert right now, and we're working on a website, and like I don't want to release it until like it's perfect in my eyes, because first of all, it's just how I am. But like, you know, I just want to make sure that it represents who I am, my style, my format, and it offers the services that you might be interested in. So I want to make sure that it's exclusive, it's ready for you. And I'm making time each day to create content. Like I want this again to represent me, and you know, I'm into like the monochrome. Is that how you say it? Monochrome. I want it to be inclusive. Like I'm not, as of right now, like my practice is open to any gender. Like, you know, I'm not saying like I just want to work with these people. Like right now, I just want to give information to whoever wants it. You know, that's my audience, and I want to make sure that I help you and I help the people around you, because you deserve that. And I mean, my goal is to offer, like I mentioned earlier, to social workers like supervision. I want to offer like some tutoring for the licensing like process. I want to offer some coaching and some consultations and just other guidance. Like self-help is such a big like part of this, that like if you feel that you don't need therapy, you don't want medication from a psychiatrist or anything like that, but you just want to help yourself and you want techniques and resources, like I plan to create that for you.
make sure you tap into the Clinician Says, baby. Let's get in. The big thing I like to do. Well, one, glad you came through. My flowers to you. Doing what you're doing, it takes a lot of guts and takes a lot of grit, and dealing with that, the field you're in is not easy. So shout out to you, because people like you, the clinicians like you, help everyone become a better person, help themselves out. So what you're doing is crucial for the environment, well, for the community, and is definitely very appreciated. I know a lot of people don't get the credit they deserve in that field, so keep continuing doing what you're doing is huge help for everybody inside the community. So just want to give you your shout out and flowers, because that can be overlooked. It's not an easy job for sure.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome. And a lot of people don't like to don't give out flowers while they can. You can say anything about me if you like, but anybody flowers. And shout out for you coming through on the podcast. Make sure you tap in to keep up with Sin and the Clinician Says. Make sure you tap into your boy Explore FF on all social media. Travel Ventures coming up this upcoming year. Gonna be pushing out a lot more content, floating your pages. So if you don't like it, you can hit the unfollow button if you don't want. If you want, but
if you're here, you better be following.
If you're here, you better be following EG Pod Thunder on all social media: TikTok, Instagram, Apple Podcast, Spotify. Let's get it. Send it to the moon. Let's get it, baby. Fuck. That's the one I meant to hit.